In the city, we have a few places that have aquifer, we have water under the ground that we could just use. But it may be the ideal thing to have geothermal development in a neighborhood. And we tried to do that, by the way. The last 2 years, actually, we tried to sell 75 lots that sits right on top of this to see if they would go green, but no takers. But I think we should not sell the lots unless it is green oriented. And I think that's one of those things that our council have said, let's put it on hold, let's go somewhere else, but save that area. There's also requests. We have a company that would like to have access to that water because they figured no need to treat the water, just send us the water the way it is. The problem with that is you need different kinds of pipes and whatever else, but it does ask the question about what is more important, water or gas. And I think water probably is more important than gas, because you can hold in your energy, but pretty hard to hold in the water for all the water needs you have. So, and if it stops your growth, then it's something that you probably should have a precedence. I want to talk now about the Massat advantage. A lot of people always confuse me. They say, well, my utilities, and maybe not so much now, but a few years ago, last year, my utility bills, utilities are higher than my brother in Calgary or Edmonton or wherever it is. What is the Massat advantage? And to know that, I think you have to understand that, first of all, the city is there for you. You are the owners of these utilities. You are the owners of all what we produce. Versus the private sector. On the gas side, for example, they are there to make money. There are no other questions, and they're there to make money. The more money they can make, the better it is in the private sector. In our business, we make money, and we have made money, and sometimes you make a lot less than other times. But there are still some profits to be made. But the profit has to go back to you. And it goes back in different form. And let me just explain to you what this is. In 2009, we changed our process of on the gas, for example, and electricity. Before that, we would adjust and give you a price, one price for the whole year for your utilities, for electricity and gas. And we said, well, that's not fair, because there were some months you were actually paying more than $2 than anybody else, or $2 more than anybody else. So we had to be tied more into the market. So really what you're doing now is you're paying, and that's what we passed as a bylaw, that you are paying the market reference price, and that's an average of the lowest prices that we can find here in Alberta. So that at least you're not in the top ones, you're not paying more than anybody else. We usually know that the way it works is that before the end of the month, all the companies have to declare what they're going to be charging for their commodities. So we know about 4 or 5 days before the end of the month, and then we pick the average to the lowest ones. And that's what you have. So you have an advantage. Yes, there'll be one, maybe sometimes some months two lower than you, but you're still at the bottom end. The real advantage comes in from distribution. And where we have a big advantage, we don't have to have hundreds and hundreds of miles of pipes or wires to bring it to your house. And by the way, if you understand electricity, the longer you have, the more power you lose on the line before it gets to the customer at the end. So they have to charge more to make sure that you get that power at the end. With gas, you have to have reserves. So for us, because we're so close to our client, we save there. You get the saving back. We actually charge you for distribution lower than anybody else. This is probably one of your biggest advantages in Medicine Hat. So when you calculate the whole bill, just to give you an example, if you look from July, because we were adjusting the first few months of the year, if you look from July to December 2009, you actually paid $151 less than anybody else in Alberta. So there is an advantage. It may not be at the bottom line, although it should be, but it is in the distribution. The commodity itself, you're going to see a few of them, always maybe a few pennies higher than we are here. Why can we do this? Pretty simple. We're not a taxable entity, so we don't pay income tax. The other businesses do. We operate integrated gas and utility. In other words, they're together. So we buy gas, electricity, people buy gas from ourselves, and then they can produce it. On top of that, we also invest from the profits $24.5 million to help reduce or keep low the tax base, which a lot of other communities don't have. So now I'd like to talk a little bit about the downtown redevelopment plan. You probably saw in the last little while before Christmas that there was discussion about downtown presentation, about a plan. First of all, there's never been a plan that was actually approved for our downtown. There was pieces and bits about different things and what to do and whatever. This is the first one. And when you have a plan like this, I don't think you can hang all the responsibility on the city. Nor should you hang all the responsibility on the business people. Because there are residents, but there's business people. So it has to be a shared responsibility. How do we move this ahead? Just to give you an idea, this is, there's different parts of the downtown for one. In the plan, it covers people that live on the hill, Southwest Hill, for example. And they've calculated there's about 500 people that live in the downtown. There should be, according to them, and there are people that have been to a lot of other communities, between 4,000 and 5,000 people that should be living close by to our downtown. In other words, the downtown is not just First, Second, and Third Street. It's a lot more than that. So the first thing you're going to see is this month, or maybe at the beginning of February, we're going to have a plan for the 600 block on 2nd Street. And that is a block that we'll be able to close up for different events we want to hold, and maybe the buildings will be suitable for different things. So there's going to be some ideas that are going to be set there. So that'll be the first phase, and see how that works. You already know that the Monarch is open, and the CCDA is working very hard to bring all kinds of different events downtown. And it's not going to stop. There might even be more than that. And because of the 600 block, it might even be more interesting to do these things. On the Glenville site, that's the property kitty corner to the City Hall that's been on and off again and so on, and you've read about this. Timing to building anything in anywhere, actually, of any size, is you have to assess that. Whoever wants to do it. The question was, well, should the city not do this? Well, the decision hasn't been taken by council to do that. We would rather look at expression of interest. When Mr. McNally walked away from it, and it was a big project, and he himself had said that it would have been very difficult to complete the project. We've had 2 offers since then for that property. Not quite meaning, this property, by the way, is not decided by just a zoning. The zoning is direct control, so it's council that decide what goes there. Now this expression of interest is out now. It should be closing, I think it's supposed to again this month. It has removed a lot of conditions that people would have been afraid to build. For example, building underground parking makes it very difficult for somebody. You get a lot of money sunk into cement and digging and whatever else. So, but this is one of those things that we have said as a priority. We want to try to move this property to give it life, and maybe to give people that to get more people to live down there. Now, one of the last things that I just wanted to say is that there is also responsibility on the merchants and the businesses. City Hall is not there to tell people what hours they're going to be operating, how much they're going to charge for the items they're selling, how receptive they have to be to their clients and whatever else. They should know that, and I hope that they really focus on that part, because that's their contribution to really keeping the downtown lively and having as many clients as they can possibly have for all the businesses. I want to cover some of the projects of 2009. And the first thing I want to say is sometimes the squeaky wheel gets the grease concept. It does work sometimes. Not all the time, but it does work sometimes. But one of the things we had said is to meet the provincial ministers as a council. We wanted to make sure that they knew what exactly we expected. Whether they acted on it or not, they should know where are we at and as we move. Bottom line to this is better communication. Because we can scream all we want, all 9 of us at council, but if the provincial government or federal government is not on board for different things, we have to make it clear to them. So we started to have some of the meetings, by the way. Transportation was one of them, and also health. And I think it's important that we keep on doing this, and just to make sure that, and not to throw tomatoes at each other, but maybe just to make sure that they know that for our community. And it's very easy to say, well, you have representatives also in this community from the provincial level or federal level, whatever it is.